Okay, folks. I have come across quite a conundrum when it comes to surround sound audio mixes, audio post mixes for cinema. For movies, right? I have, in my experience. Now, don't get me wrong. I haven't had a lot of experience mixing surround sound, right? But from what I do know from the cinema post mixers that I've talked with, and I have friends who do this sort of thing, and I actually realized that actually you can be the world's greatest mixer, right? A audio post surround sound cinema mixer in your own Dolby certified studio, right? Mixing sound stage, right? It's well calibrated. It is honest. It tells your mix exactly what's going on. It tells you what's exactly going on with your mix and all that. But ultimately, it is still a limitation. Because your mix can translate well, provided if the same conditions as the mixing soundstage is also available in the public cinemas all over the world, right? Now, you take Singapore for an example, right? Now, I don't mean to keep constantly bashing Singaporean entertainment standards, but a lot of the cinemas in Singapore, my country, they are very poorly set up and calibrated for the way each of its individual halls sound. So every time they get a so-called expert to calibrate the speaker arrangements and the array, the alignments, and the bass, to kind of get the best movie-going experience, I bet you all they do is they just follow a very stringent technical and mathematical set of guidelines, right? Oh, if you have 7 speakers, then they must be put apart of a certain distance. If there is a bass, it has to have a certain whatever, But they are not actually using their instincts to really tailor the calibration to the sound of the hall itself. Do you know what that means? This means that there are probably IMAX cinemas, and other normal cinemas of varying sizes and varying bass frequency problems that are not really addressed, and and sometimes, one time I went to watch Dune 2049, was it? In one of the cinemas, in Singapore, there was this huge buzzing sound from one speaker. And I realized, what, man, nobody bothered to complain about it, and what, man, honestly, I wanted to, but I just felt like the energy wasn't worth it. And then as a result, that buzzing speaker, every time there was a low rumble, it would buzz real loud, and even the moviegoers around me were like wondering, what the fuck was that? What the fuck is that? And it's like no one complained. And the thing is that you see in the cinema, unless people actually make an effort to complain about how fucked up the audio system is, the cinema authorities, they won't give a shit. They won't bother. And then as a result, the quality is just left as where it is. So the important thing I would say, about surround sound cinema, everybody always says, nothing beats listening to it in a cinema. Nothing beats listening to it in a cinema. I'm like, really? I don't know. I don't know, man. Just because there's bigger speakers and you are surrounded, that's why, okay. Yeah, maybe that might contribute to the experience, but you know what, man, from I had a friend who spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on a 7.1 mix on his movie, right here in a Dolby certified mixing soundstage, and when it was screened at a festival somewhere in Europe, he was complaining to me about how it just sounded like crap. I was like, yeah, exactly. You know why? Because that cinema was poorly calibrated. You see, so it doesn't matter whether, you know. I mean, you could have the ultimate multi-billion-dollar Dolby certified surround sound mixing studio, 7.1.2 whatever crap, and you can be the world's best mixer, and it sounds absolutely immaculate in your mixing soundstage. But guess what? If your mix goes out into a shittily calibrated cinema, why the fuck even bother paying for so much? You know, when in real world results, chances are, you know, it might not be as immaculate as you hope it would be. You see? So ultimately, you know, the cinema going experience has to be the cinema side of things. You know, there has to be an effort of, you know, investors who invest in this sort of entertainment actually really give a shit about the sound setup, you know, which means literally, I would suppose, a dedicated audio engineer to each fucking hall, who not only does things based on extremely technical and mathematical specifications in terms of setting everything up, but also having an instinct for how the bass frequencies bounce off the hall and how it reacts, you know, how it does it muddy things up too much, and therefore for this particular hall you gotta maybe reduce it a bit, and then maybe brighten up the speakers, the surrounding arrays a little bit, you know, stuff like that. You know, that's what really brings the good movie going experience in terms of audio, in terms of sound, you know. So it's a very tricky situation, you know. Whereas for stereo, if you're mixing for stereo, you know, as it is bad enough, you know, you play back through a car stereo, or you play back through a radio, you play back through streaming, online, whatever. At least with stereo, you know you can't go that wrong. It's just 2 channels. That's all you gotta deal with. You know what you're getting, literally, with just 2 channels. You know, so for streaming, especially now, it's, you know, streaming and online, you know, that's where I unfortunately have to cater my business to, which is good, because then I don't have to spend millions of fucking dollars, you know, building a multi-billion-dollar Dolby certified sound mixing stage. You see? You know, and plus, anyway, in my country, there's not a lot of movies being made every year anyway. So that would be an obvious waste of investment for me, right? So that's the thing, you see. So it's very tricky, you know. If you ask me, is it a more viable business sense to downsize your studio and work on online content? I say yes. You know, because, and it depends on what country or culture that you're in. You know, if you're in a country where there's like only 3 or 4 movies being made every fucking year, fuck that, man. I'm not gonna invest millions into a Dolby certified mixing soundstage. I'm just gonna work on stereo, 2 channels, content, churn, you know, and that would be a more business savvy sense to me, you know. But if you're in places like California, the US, sure, you know, there's still, you know, jobs going on, even though even that area is dwindling down now, you know, but still better than nothing, right? You know, so ultimately I would say, you know, it's not worth investing in $1 million Dolby certified mixing soundstage for cinema. At least from my neck of the woods, you know. You know, I suggest, like, I mean, even also a lot of my fellow post mixers out there, depending on which culture you're in, depending on how much jobs are available to be done and paid for, I suggest downsizing would be the sensible way to go, at least for now. Yeah.